Welcome back, everybody. Apologies for the few minutes delay due to a couple of technical issues. For those of us just joining, on behalf of the Oil and Gas IQ team, we thank you for taking part today. This session will feature Paul Stone, Product Strategist at FlowForma. A warm welcome to you, Paul. Make sure you're sitting comfortably, and I'll hand over to Paul, who will be addressing key challenges on facing the oil and gas sector, and will give some real-life case studies on how some of their oil and gas clients are leveraging process automation. Paul will discuss how companies can maximize process and operational efficiency with business-led digital workflows in oil and gas.
Thank you very much. So I've already had an introduction to explain. I'm product strategist at a company called FlowForma. And first of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about us. We're a company that was formed back in 2016. And we're recognized for being innovators in the BPM space, business process management. We have over 200,000 customers around the world using FlowForma in over 20 countries. And we're serving a global customer base. We're a unique tool in that we handle workflow and data, documentation and communications all in one product. A product that's designed for business people to configure, to enable them to enact change within their business. Now, today, I'm going to talk about some of the challenges in oil and gas and suggest how you might address them using the business process platform. So first of all, the first challenge we look at is building resiliency in a period of uncertainty. At the moment, there's many challenges happening in the world due to world events that's having a significant effect on the oil and gas industry. And basically dealing with operational efficiency, improving operational efficiency is a great way to ensure that you're more resilient, able to handle and cope with all those changes. So the situation that we see is we've got high inflation, we have a scarcity of talent, and a lot of market volatility brought about by external events that are not under our control. And we see that in 2023, we see that automation projects focus much more on business continuity and resilience. So in the past, they would have focused mainly on cost reduction, for example. Today, it's really automation to handle changes that you cannot control, to become more resilient and to reduce the risk of your operations. We've seen people be slow to adopt new technologies, which are key to actually helping you to change. And also the cost effectiveness must take center stage. So it's not sufficient to change. You must change cost effectively to ensure that you're operating at your most optimum capacity. So our approach to solve this is to use a digitization tool, a process that allows you a system that allows you to digitize your processes in a short time frame to be able to tackle a change at the speed that the change occurs. So that you're not waiting for regulatory changes and so on, that actually as events happen, you are proactively changing and adopting your operating procedures to deal with that change, to support business agility, to allow you to change at pace. And to do that, we suggest using a no-code automation platform. What does that mean? It's a platform that actually allows business users who understand the challenges best to actually create digital processes and implement them in our organization. And that encourage a culture of innovation so that basically people are allowed and encouraged to change and adapt to the ever-changing world outside them. Also, take a data-driven approach so that data-driven information is actually driving your decision-making so that you have accurate, up-to-date information at all times coming from those digital processes that are allowing you to make the appropriate decisions for the future. A part of a process automation platform, you're going to introduce things like standardization, standardized processes, and implement controls that ultimately reduce operational risk in your business. So we see this as really being very important, and a good process automation platform will facilitate the adoption within the industry. So basically, what you're looking at is trying to make sure people use the new processes, adopt the systems that enable those processes to operate most effectively in your organization. Challenge number 2 is looking at the skill shortage. So we want to see how you might alleviate that skill shortage. And one thing that has come out from Ernst & Young is that they really see the value of companies really see the value of digital technology in transforming their workforce. But they lack the critical skills to activate a strategy. So they see that technology as being a real advantage, but they don't have the skills or availability of those skills to make those changes happen. So one of the things that we see as a current situation is that there's a significant challenge in oil and gas in terms of skills and availability. Young generations' attitudes to oil and gas have changed so that they are not as open to joining oil and gas firms. And we see this as a significant obstacle to improving the current situation in terms of skill shortage. And in a world where 90% of employees feel burdened with repetitive tasks, process automation can provide a serious productivity uptick. What this is leading to is that you're basically looking to make the best use of your existing resources rather than having to go outside and hire new staff or hire, for example, temporary workers. So in terms of the approach that we would suggest to do this is basically make your existing workers more productive by taking away their administration, provide them with innovative tools that they need to do their jobs. So look at process automation and enable that process automation, put that process automation in the hands of business so that the business can basically look to themselves to improve their work and also reduce the amount of administrative steps that they need to carry out, because who likes administration, right? And we can look to our customer base and give you statistics on how much administration have been saved. So we see here one stat of 6,000 plus hours administration, 6,000 plus administration hours saved in 1 year by one of our customers, and 60% improvements in process efficiency. And we've got stats throughout the board in terms of the positive effect that can happen when you implement those digital processes. And we're very happy to share those through case studies. We'll be talking about that very shortly. And this has a really positive impact on your existing workforce, helping you to retain the existing staff, but also demonstrating to the outside world that you're running most efficiently, that you take care of your processes and that you actually want to be the best in the business. Just looking at some stats from Ernst & Young, what we see is that over 90% of companies are currently automating or planning to automate work to address labor shortages. So this is something that, through this survey, it's shown that people are actively looking to automation to help with that skill shortage. For challenge number 3, we're going to look at the challenge of outdated back office operating models and legacy systems. Essentially, many people are restricted with their operating models by the legacy systems that they have in place. So the systems themselves are stopping you from working faster and better. And this is really important because of the shrinking margins that are currently in the oil and gas industry. So you need to look to see how you can reduce spend, but those legacy systems take a long time to change, and that's the problem. You can't change fast enough to reduce that spend because you're tied with those legacy systems. So if you look again at the current situation, you have these expensive, old, and inefficient legacy systems. They're lying there. They're not changing. It takes years to actually implement new systems. And the problem as well is that it's a great deal of cost. So it's not just the number of years it takes to change those systems, it's the cost that's associated with that. And getting the new project, if you like, justified and approved to go in and implement change those legacy systems. So one of the ways you can help this situation is by bridging the technology gap to align with growth, so that basically you can implement systems that are designed to cope with change, that can sit on top of those legacy systems in the background. So our approach is to rethink your current situation and deliver a competitive no-code digital experience. So in other words, what you're doing is delivering those digital processes that are actually helping you to change and become more productive while retaining the legacy systems in the background. So how that works is that the digital process automation system sits on top of the legacy systems, presents the data, allows people to execute the tasks, those tasks efficiently, traceably, and then automatically update the systems that are running in the background. So again, we have some stats in terms of some of the processes that have run in our existing customer base, where people have saved a significant dollar values, but also saved time as well. and use resources more efficiently. Why? Because one of the things that the digital process automation system does is it gives you traceability. It allows you to see precisely how much time and effort has been put into every single business process. And at the same time, it's giving you that pleasant user interface that's easy to adopt, easy to learn, to use, and that's sitting on top of those outdated legacy systems. Essentially, it's giving end users the appearance of a brand new system, even though that legacy system might be running still in the background. Again, just to look at some stats from Ernst & Young, we see that over 57% of companies are finding integrating technologies from different areas to be a real challenge, because the legacy systems don't talk to each other. Again, our solution here would be to fit something over the top that talks to each legacy system in turn, and ultimately passes information between the systems. Also, people are definitely finding that the legacy systems are holding them back in terms of change, because it's very expensive and difficult and sometimes impossible to change those legacy systems in the background. While having that veneer over the top, using a digital process automation system allows you to actually change your operating procedures and monitor them and track them. Okay, so we'd like to ask a quick poll. What are the key challenges that workflow automation can help you overcome? So we have three options there: operational efficiency, labor shortages and issues, and outdated legacy systems. So if you can submit your responses to that poll, we'd be very grateful. And due to the little delay that we had at the start, I'm going to press on with the slide deck. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about now is some digitalization success stories, so some for the experiences of our clients. And what we'll do is we'll jump straight in, again, running a little bit late behind schedule. So first of all, we'll talk about Comanchal. Comanchal is a copper mining company based in South Africa, and they're a significant business that has been operating for some time. They were recently acquired, and the digital transformation initiative within that company was driven by the chief financial officer. He saw his finance department awash with paper, and there was great opportunity for improvement. And one of the challenges that they had, probably the very biggest challenge, was they had lack of visibility of where processes lay. They didn't know what processes were in play, what stage they were at, and who has the ball. So who do you chase if the process is stalled? They didn't have this basic information because so many of those processes are based on paper, emails, and spreadsheets. So they started to innovate using an invoice approval process where they adopted FlowForma. They digitized the process themselves, supported by us, using a program called SureStart, which helps you get up to speed and you to actually digitize the process yourself, because you are the person who knows the process better than anybody else. And they were able to automate who governs and approves what process, how those invoices were processed. They're going to follow this on with further innovation within their procurement processes and also resource scheduling. Procurement processes are a fantastic use case for FlowForma because everybody operates in a different way. So everybody has different approval processes, for example, for capital expenditure. And FlowForma allows you to build out a digital process that meets your needs, your specific ways of working within your organization. So procurement is a fantastic example of how you can use FlowForma. Also, FlowForma allows you to extend your process out to outside of your business, so that other people, for example, people in your suppliers, your customer base, are allowed to interact with those processes as well and supply information directly to you, rather than sending information via an email or via post. So every company basically has its own policy, and what Comanchal were able to do was actually build processes that match their specific needs, and that was a real benefit for them. The next example I'm going to give you very quickly is Centurion Group. So Centurion Group are a global leader in supply of critical services and equipment into energy industries. The process initiative in this case was driven by the CEO to streamline communication between teams and reduce process times from 1 month to 10 days. So they had specific processes in mind to start. They looked at other platforms to FlowForma to see if there was a more suitable platform out there. And they started off at Microsoft Power Apps, but it was a bottleneck for building workflows. It's basically a great app building tool, but it's not really about process. And that's really the challenge that they wanted to address. So they deployed FlowForma Process Automation, and they were able to get a CapEx process up and running within weeks. They followed that with expense claims, instant notifications, legal review requests, and sales transaction control, and more. So they really motored on once they had that first process live, and they really wanted to become self-sufficient. They didn't have a big IT team, so they were able to become self-sufficient by training their own internal staff to build out the processes. And this is really something that's very important if you want to scale. So it's one thing to build one process. You really want to build many processes to reap the benefits. And the way you do that by scaling. And FlowForma, because it's focused on business users building their own solutions, it really allows you to do that and do it quickly. Just some examples from our wider client base. We have clients in various different parts of the world working in their different areas. Some are very large clients and they focus on like finance processes, for example. But then we have other clients who are really specific, like Aberdeen Radiation Protection Services, who basically handle radiation protection devices, and they use FlowForma to help with the calibration process of those devices. So there can be really specific business processes within your organization that are really quite unique to you. FlowForma can handle anything. Okay, so what we'll do now, I think, is move on to just say thank you for joining us and talk maybe a little bit about a quick Q&A that we may have received, and I'll answer whatever questions are thrown my way.
I have a question for you in the meantime, Paul, if I may. What is the typical time to value for companies looking to digitalize quickly?
Yeah, that's a good question. So FlowForma is all about speed. So we can get a process up and running very quickly. And the way we do it is we support you in actually creating your own solution so that you can digitize the process typically in a 4 to 6 week time frame. And once that process is digitized, you can start measuring that process immediately. So you're seeing the impact of that process immediately. So we look at a kind of 4 to 6 week period in terms of getting that first process up and running. And from that point onwards, you're starting to see return on investment.
Thank you. And we have a question from Rob Burton. How do you secure data through your process flow?
Yeah, the data that is captured in the process, which can include documentation, for example, is all saved within your SharePoint environment. So FlowForma is a system that sits on top of Microsoft SharePoint Online. And when you execute a task in that workflow, you're capturing data and documentation relevant to that task. And that's being automatically saved inside SharePoint. Once it's inside SharePoint, it's secured in that Microsoft environment. So you're logging into the system typically through your Microsoft 365 login, and then you're getting access through the SharePoint security layer to that data and documentation associated with the workflow. So essentially, that's the way we're doing it. We're piggybacking, if you like, off the Microsoft 365 environment and Microsoft 365 regarding all of their information.
Another question here, is there training available for building workflows? We have a mixed skill set, and although we'd like more team members to create workflows, I feel training will be essential.
Yeah, we have. So we've been looking at this for years, trying out different models for user training. And our current model we're finding is very successful. So we have a program called SureStart. When you sign up to use our system, you get it automatically. And we bring you through a training program, as well as we also work with you, support you to deliver that first process into your business. So you have one full viable process in place within that 4 to 6 week time frame. And then we also have online training as well. So we have clients all over the world. We provide remote training. We can provide on-site training as well. And yes, training is very important. The system supported itself by a very comprehensive online training manual, so that as you're building your process, at a click of a button, you can get immediate help on that particular area that you're working on within the system. So training is very much front of mind for ourselves, and we've spent years homing in our training method to provide the quickest possible route to training. So just to give you an example, it's a 2-day training course to get you the basics to allow you to start building out a process in FlowForma.
Wonderful. One last question from Dennis Bourguignon. What is the limit between use no code strategy and create a system, thinking in scalability terms?
Yeah, so the way a no-code system works, the way our system works, is that a lot of the work is done automatically for you. So you're not starting from scratch when you build out your system. That's so important. If you're looking at developing a system using traditional development methods, you have to think a lot about the environment, setting up the environment, etc. But FlowForma, the environment is already set up for you. So what this means is that business users, once they're trained, can start building a solution with a lot of competence very quickly, so that you're not worried so much about, the security and environment issues that you would be if you were a traditional, say, Microsoft.NET C# style developer. If you're a business developer, you're getting a pre-built environment, a safe, secure environment. We also have a governance system that allows you to minimize the risk of handing out that development capability to those business users to ensure that they build systems that are reliable and dependable and can be scaled up and rolled out quickly. A great benefit as well is that, of course, we sit inside that Microsoft 365 environment, which is controlled ultimately by your IT resources. So they ensure that the infrastructure is working most effectively.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Paul, for this informative session. I'd like to thank everyone watching and for taking the time to listen in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.